Hello everybody, Joel Logan with a Hole in the Ground Terrain, and I'm over here at a friend of mine's house that lives in the same area of Georgia I live in, and this is my friend Bart Turpin. He's been working on a pretty cool board with some different terrain, and he's got a really cool river piece that I wanted to spotlight today, and Bart's going to share with you. I'm going to ask him some questions about how he built it, so hopefully you guys can learn a little bit about how to build your own river section. But I'm going to get out of the shot and we're going to ask him some questions about what he's done. Now Bart, how long have you been making terrain now?
I've been building terrain for about a year.
And what got you into building terrain?
You did.
I did. But you kind of got a hobby background. What were you big into before you got into building terrain?
I got into hobbies building and doing like 1/6.
Can I show some of these up
Absolutely.
here? Now Bart has done a lot of these. He has a lot put in storage, but he was doing... Do you want to talk a little more about it? I don't know much about it as you do.
Yeah, these are 1/6 scale, basically G.I. Joes. Different brands, you buy them by the pieces and assemble them, paint the different pieces the way you want them. They're more or less historically accurate as far as their uniforms and equipment, and the average one costs about 40 to 50 bucks to put together.
Now I was joking with Bart that I got him into Wargaming because the miniatures are a whole lot smaller than what he was doing, and his wife didn't fuss at him as much about storing them. But what I wanted to spotlight today, and Bart's going to share with you, Bart spent a lot of time and built a really neat river piece that I'm going to come over here and film and get Bart to show you some of how he built it. Now Bart, how did you get started, and do you want to show the river piece over there that you didn't build, just so people can kind of see what one looks like?
Sure. This one is a bad idea. This was originally designed out of foam board on the bottom, and as you can see, it tends to kind of cut when it's painted. It doesn't lay flat. I had started this one with the intention of the pieces being separate pieces so that you could rearrange them in different ways, but really just didn't like the way this one was going. I turned it over to my son, and he's the one that's done all this painting here. But the same basic ideas are what I carried over into what I finally did.
Now what's different about the final piece? What's the bottom of this made out of?
The bottom of this is an 1/8 inch piece of wood. It's actually a piece of old chalkboard that my brother had gotten several sheets of, but really any kind of 1/8 inch wood would work. I believe this is more like a manufactured kind. It doesn't have natural grains to it.
So is that something you can buy at Home Depot?
It is something you can pick up at Home Depot pretty cheap. And as you can see, it doesn't take much of the board. You could probably get 3 or 4 rivers out of a single piece.
Alright. Now once you cut your board out, of course, describe how you built the banks for everybody.
After the board was cut out, I sanded down the edges of it so that it would blend better with a tabletop. And then I just simply flipped it over onto my sheet of foam board and traced along the edges to get the basic shape. Then I turned to cut out my edges for the embankments, and then went back in using a hot wire foam cutter, just a single blade, and cut along the edges on both sides of my riverbank.
Can you show what kind of foam cutter? Now Bart has one I think he bought at Hobby Lobby?
This was from Hobby Lobby. I picked it up for about 13 bucks with one of their 40% off coupons. It's a little fragile. You have to go kind of slow with it, but it's really good for detail work, for cutting in and out of crevices and doing different shapes. A little more flexible maybe than the kind with 2 arms. Can do a little bit more detail in there.
So now the banks, did you build these out of foam?
The banks are out of 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch pink insulation foam.
Can you show a piece of that to everybody so they know what you're talking about? Bart has some over here.
Basically a sheet of this. This is a Foamular. You can pick it up at Home Depot. It's about 20 bucks for a 4x8 sheet of the 1/2 inch kind. This will go a long way.
Now what did you do? Did you stack it up and sculpt it, or the banks? How did you do that?
The banks are actually a single layer.
Okay.
They're 3/4 inch up off the river itself. that it looks like there's more because the next step that I did was to coat the entire insides of the riverbanks with just basic hobby sand. This is from a bag that I picked up, I believe at Michael's, for about $3.
Is that a Woodland Scenic brand?
It's not a Woodland Scenic brand. This came out of their floral section.
Okay.
It's the kind that you'd put in like a flower display.
All right.
But I just coated the entire inside with a thin down white PVA glue, and then coated it with that sand to give it some texture. Makes it look a little more realistic than just like a smooth piece of foam would.
Now, can you share about how you painted it? Now, I believe, I'm going to let Bart tell you, but I think what Bart did is he painted this 2 different shades, and then he's going to show you in a minute how he sealed it to get this clear, glossy look that looks like water. Can you share I know you had the paints over there, can you kind of describe how you painted the bluish green color to make it look like
Sure.
water?
One of the things I did was to make sure that when I painted my riverbanks, I got a little bit of the brown down along the edge, so it looks like there's some of the sand where the water comes up and it's very shallow along the riverbank. I started out with my darkest color, a mix of blues and greens. Water is not truly blue. It's actually got kind of a greenish tint to it, but most of us like the look of the blue, so it's more blue than it is green. Your darkest colors just get streaked into the middle. I did thin this down with water a little bit with acrylics, and I use the cheap craft stuff. They dry kind of quick, so if you mix it with a little bit of water, it tends to blend when you do your next color. So I started with the darkest streak down through the center, and then worked my way out just by slowly lightening it with like white or gray. And just as you work your way out towards the riverbanks, of course, it's the lightest up by the bank. And you just keep blending it with the water as you go.
So once you had it painted, you used, can you show the exact bottle and brand you used of polyurethane? And Minwax is a brand we use a lot. Depending on if you're in Canada or somewhere, it may be different brands. But
it's just Minwax. It's a high gloss, clear polyurethane coating. I put about 3 coats on this river. The first coat really does just fine, but I wanted a little more depth to it. It takes just a few hours to dry. I'd recommend letting the first layer dry overnight, and then each layer subsequently let it dry overnight before you put on another.
All right, and as you can see, everybody, this has a beautiful gloss effect to it, and it does look like wet water. Now, if you touch it right now, does it feel wet or dry?
It's dry. It's not even tacky.
And
that Minwax
that's
clear,
right, touching
clear
it, guys. You know, some things like the floral water that I've used on some, I've got stuff after 2 years, it's still wet and sticky. If you touch this, this is completely dry and smooth as can be, so there's no tackiness or wetness to that. What else you want to share? Overall, how long did it take you to build this river, would you guess?
Most of the time, building the river is the wait time, drying in between coats of glue or in between coats of paint. The actual construction of it, if you weren't having to wait on the drying, I could build one of these in a day.
Yeah, so a lot of the time just letting it dry. Now, can you share real quick about the bridge? Bart built a really neat bridge to go over the river.
Yeah, this bridge, I wanted something with a little more rustic look, something that looked like it had been sitting there for a long time. This is constructed basically out of a long plank that I cut in the center on the back here. This is what everything else is mounted on. It's just a piece of 1/8 inch wood. I scored it on the top so that it would bend, and then put a support piece in the middle so that the ends would not continue to bend out. And this is secured with wood glue and a screw in one end because that end didn't want to sit at the angle I wanted it to. From there, it's basically just flat craft sticks from Walmart. I got through this whole thing in less than 1 pack. And then I have some 3/16, I believe, dowels for the posts.
Now that looks really good, Bart. That would probably make a good set of docks too if you were building something on the coast or whatever. But I want to spend just a minute more, Bart, filming your board.
All right.
And then I'm going to take some pictures and we'll have a little slideshow at the end.
Why don't we throw just a few miniatures out
All
here
right.
just so you can get an idea of how big the river really is.
It's going to give you some scale, everybody. These are some Games Workshop miniatures. So how's that look there? I'm going to spend just a minute doing some filming here. And guys, Bart's worked real hard on this, and if below you can leave him some feedback, I know he would love to hear from you, and I hope that in the future we see a lot more projects out of Bart. And he's making some really good terrain. You can see here a really nice tower project, and this is probably worthy of a video too. Maybe we can do that in the near future. Bart's getting to make terrain really good, probably better than me. But he's made a lot of neat things. Here's a nice hill set he's built, and he's getting really good at trees. Here's some stands of trees he's done. So guys, I know he'd appreciate some feedback, and I appreciate y'all watching. If you hadn't already, please subscribe, and hopefully we'll see some more from Bart in the near future. So we appreciate it today, Bart.